Acharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Bhadram Karnebhihi Shrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashyema Akshabhiryajatraha Sthirairangaistushtyuvagum Sastanubhihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vriddhashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarksho arishtanemihi Swasti no Brihaspatir Dadhatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvina Vadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let's chant the seventh mantra. Na antah pragyam, na bahish pragyam, na ubhayatah pragyam, na pragyana ghanam, na pragyam, na pragyam, adrishtam, avyavaharyam, agrahyam, alakshanam, achintyam, avyapadeshyam, ekatma pratyasaram, prapancha upashamam, shantam, shivam, advaitam, chaturtham manyante, sa atma savijñeyaha. So it is a common experience of all human beings to be born as a limited person. Just the very fact of being born means you are born into as a limited being. So and you stay in your life as a limited being. So this is the definition of samsara. So you're born in samsara, you live in samsara, and you die as a samsari. So samsari means what? It means the normal experience that I am very limited and my quest for happiness, for sukham, means a sense of satisfaction is very fleeting, interdependent on a number of factors that I do not control, and I manipulate them as the best way I can, but ultimately, through karmas and so on, I'm unable to do it, and I depart from this world in that state. This is our situation. So basically, Shastra points out that this sense of samsaritvam, the sense that I'm a limited being, leads to new karmas, which leads to new samsaritvam, and this goes on and on and on. And just the death of the body doesn't stop it. This is a cycle that just goes on in the form of seeds and the manifestation of the seeds. Just like we saw in the last few classes, that there is a seed that gives rise to a tree, which gives rise to more seeds, Same thing here is pointed out in various texts. And interestingly, I point out this fact talked about in the Bhagavad Gita, at various places in the Bhagavad Gita, but pointedly in the 15th chapter, first 3 verses of the 15th chapter. So I'll just chant it. Urdhvamulam vadashakam ashvatham prahuravyayam chandamsi yasya parnani yastam veda savedavit adhaschordhvam prasitas tasya shakhaha gunapravidha vishaya pravalaha adhascha mulanyanusantatani karmanubandhini manushya-loke na rupamasyeha tatopalabhyate nanto na chadir na cha sampratishtha ashvattamenam suviruda moolam asanga shastrena dridena chitva. This is what is being pointed out. Beautiful. So it says that this cycle of unmanifest and manifest, back to unmanifest, back to manifest, back to bijam, back to vriksha, back to bijam, seed, tree. This goes on all your life for everyone. This is the situation. And this one is, you don't know where it began, and you don't know what the end of this is. It is not possible to know that unless someone points it out. But until then, it is not possible. So this is what it says. So this is in the form of an inverted tree. Urdhvamulam adhashakam. I won't go into the details of why it is inverted, where the roots are above and all of the manifestations are below. What the technical meaning of that, I think, will take more time, and I won't go into that at this stage. But it is what is called an ashwatha tree. Life is like an ashwatha tree, a peepal tree. And the peculiarity of the peepal tree is that once it grows, it drops branches all the way to the ground that become roots by themselves. So it is self-perpetuating. And it's very solid, not difficult to cut, not easy to cut, very difficult to do it. And it is avyayam, prahu avyayam. Avyayam means that it just completely goes on without any end. Then it says, na rupam asya iha tatopalabhyate. Exactly what form the world is. Na antaha na cha adihi cha sampratishtha. Beautiful. It says, you cannot tell when it started. You cannot tell when it's going to end. And it is sampratishtha. Sampratishtha means samyak pratishtha. Pratishtha itself, it's a double, triple meaning. Nishtha means one which is established. Pratishtha means prakarshena nishtha, very well established. Sampratishtha means it's very difficult to get rid of. So the sense of samsara, what is pointing out, which is common to everyone, no matter where you are, what your gender is, what your ethnicity is, what your age is, where you are born, the sense of samsara is common to all of us. This is what is being pointed out. Ashwatthaменam prasita tasya shakha na rupamasya tatopalabhyate na antaha na chadir na cha sampratishta. Ashwatthaменam suvirudamulam. Its branches and its seeds are so well established. It is not easy to take care of it. Then, so what do I do then? Is it a lost cause if I cannot take care of it? And it ends with a very good message. He says, Asanga shastrena dridhena chitva. Chitva means having cut. It goes on. So having cut means that then it proceeds on to other things on the 15th chapter. But it can be cut. It can be cut. Dridhena chitva means absolutely gone. Just like the tree can be completely cut. I'm very well. Fortunately, I had the misfortune of having a more than 100-year-old oak tree on my property that had to be cut recently. I mean about 3-4 months ago. Because it was diseased, and I went through a lot of people that really came in and advised me, and they said, you cannot save this. It was a huge tree. I think it cost me, by the time I got the permit from the city, to get the permit to cut this oak tree, which is hundreds of years old, maybe 200-year-old. And its trunk was approximately about this big, more than a yard and a half thick, huge tree, gone. And to cut it was also not easy, but it can be done. So similarly here, samsara is likened to be, and this is just an oak tree, whereas a peepal tree, ashwattham, is even stronger than that. And it says it can be cut by what is called asanga shastra. The only weapon that can cut the tree of samsara. Tree of samsara means just the normal life of karma and karmaphala, then again a new body, just same thing. It can be cut. How? Asanga shastrena. Asanga shastrena. So this is what we have to really think about. What is asanga shastra? Shastra means a weapon, and the weapon in the form of asanga, non-attachment. Non-attachment. So here, this is an important thing to see, that the non-attachment it should not be based on your strength, your ability to do things. So this is what is called Purushatantram. So this should be seen very clearly. Please, let's look into that. So we can divide our actions in life, our attempts to become free, in two parts, two forms, not parts, but two forms. One is to do something to achieve something that I don't have yet. And that achievement, which we have presented to you in many, many different times, as apraptasya prapti. And all of our life's actions and attempts are falling under this category. Apraptasya prapti. So, the cutting of this samsara doesn't fall under this category. What category? Which is called Purushatantram karma. Means the ability to do karma based on your strength, your ability, etc. And those are so limited that you cannot cut this tree. You cannot do it. Then, what to do? It is because it is Vastu Tantram natu Purusha Tantram. Vastu Tantram means you're telling me that if I cannot cut the samsara, then I am bound to fail in my life. And yes, indeed, if you treat it like that, you are absolutely correct, you cannot succeed. However, there is a different method which you should see. And that is Vastu Tantram natu Purusha Tantram. Vastu Tantram means it is not based on your effort. It is not apraptasya prapti. It is not the gaining of something not yet gained, but it is the gain of something already there and not recognized. This is called Vastu Tantram. You are the Vastu, you are the entity, you are the real stuff. That doesn't need any help, any kind of a cleaning, any kind of a change. But you don't recognize the fact that you are not an incomplete being. You're already complete. You don't recognize it. So it is not going to be based on your efforts to free yourself. It is based on the fact that you have to see that you are already free. This is the basis of Advaita Vedanta. And Swami Akhandananda often points out, and we haven't really talked about it very much, this should not be treated as a sampradaya. Sampradaya means different ways of philosophizing, belief, and so on. What is your way of thinking? This is a sampradaya. Advaita Vedanta is not a sampradaya. He points it out very clearly, even though we commonly say that we are the Advaita Vedanta sampradaya. But he says, in reality, this is not a method, not... Swami Dayanandji also used to say that. It is not a system. A system will be for Purushatantram. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. If you have to do something to achieve something that you don't have, then a system would be useful. How do I do it? So really yoga can be classified as a system, that I have to really do some things. I have to meditate. I have to do samadhi. I have to clean up my mind. All those kinds. It's called a system. And there are various systems. There is a bhakti system. There is a karma system. There is a Sankhya system where the Prakriti and Purusha are separated. All those are systems. The Advaita Vedanta is not a system. So let me ask you, are you a system? You are engaged in something that might be a system without recognizing that you are not a system. This is what is called Vastu Tantra. Vastu Tantra means you have to see it exactly as you are. And any amount of effort and cleaning up and Antakarana Shuddhi and all of those kinds of things, they are all on the side, but nothing will clarify. Then what to do? What am I supposed? I have to do something. I cannot, as it is, I'm a samsari. You've already told me I'm a samsari. You didn't tell me I'm a samsari. You're telling me you are a non-samsari. But how do I know this? Okay, agreed. I don't have to do something, but I have to know something. How? So let's get into that. There, our Shastra says, Viveka is the way to know yourself. Viveka is the beginning and the end. Viveka, Viveka, Viveka. And without that, you cannot really know that you are. This is what is called Asanga Shastra. So now I want to focus in on this Gita's Asanga Shastrena Dridhena Chitva. Verse number 3, chapter 15. Suvirudha Moolam Ashwattamenam Suvirudha Moolam. This is an Ashwatha tree which is very well established, but it can be cut. Asanga Shastrena Dridhena Chitva. What is this Asanga Shastra? It is Viveka. So now let's go into this Viveka. So the whole thing is based on Nitya Anitya Viveka. Nitya Anitya Viveka means a discrimination between a factor which is Nitya and a factor which is Anitya. Nitya means one where it is independent of time. Nitya doesn't mean that it is always the same in time. Nitya means there is no time. Even the concept of time doesn't exist. It's called Nitya. Nitya means unchangingness. This is called Nitya. And Anitya means something which is so constantly changing that even when it appears not to change, it is changing. Basically, it is changing. As we have talked about it so many times, that really speaking, a table is also a nitya. And we think that it is a nitya from a long-term perspective. That, this particular table is very interesting. This table we bought from India, imported from India. At the very earlier part of our life when we were married, 68, 69, somewhere there, 70. We decided we love this, there's a furniture shop in India called Alankara. I don't know if it's still there. I'd like to find out. It's called Alankara. And when we went there, we just fell in love with the styling of the furniture. And we decided to import a lot of things. Imported a big table, small table. We have a lot of, I can see some portions here and there and all. Foolish at that time to bring something from there, put out so much effort and so on. And it's amazing, it's been there solid for a long time. And in one day, maybe 100 years from now or something, it will disintegrate. So we think it is unchanging, relatively unchanging. It is not. The fact of the matter is that it is deteriorating every second. In fact, there is no solidity to the wood. It is a bunch of electrons and protons revolving each other. And it is really just the force of the negativity and positivity repelling each other with the hand. That's all it is. It's all 99% blank. There's no solidity to it. Anyway, what I'm saying is that there is something called nitya and something called anitya. This is what is called drik drishya viveka. Everything that you see is anitya and the seer is nitya. This needs to be understood. Until you understand this, until you are able to do this discrimination between these two factors, until then you are mixing the two up, which creates the samsara. This is the message. In this message, Swami Akhandananda has given a very beautiful example, which I think I would like to bring in at this stage. Very beautiful example of Nitya Anitya Viveka. That's the reason I'm spending some time on this, just to illustrate the utility of understanding this example. So let's get into that. The example that Swamiji gives is that of, we have talked about it before, but not in this explicit form of Nitya Anitya Viveka. So I'd like to present that to you. Example he gives is that of the blue sky. So the viveka of the blue sky should be considered to be done in 3 stages. Okay? 3 stages. Stage number 1 is where everyone born into this world, especially the youngster that has not yet been taught, thinks that the sky is blue. This is stage 1. You see the sky as a single entity, that it is a blue sky, blue akasha. Stage 1. Stage 2 is a teaching by an adult to this youngster. This can be done in various ways. You can even take the youngster out. I should do that. I have a 4-year-old. I'd be love to do that. I think I should do that. Is to teach the youngster, the 4-year-old. A 2-year-old will not understand, but a 4 or 5-year-old, yes. To say, ask question. Do you think that the sky is blue? And the youngster will say, in my granddaughter's case, she'll say yes. I'll say no. There are 2 factors. There is a color blue and there is a space which is not blue. I have to explain that to her. I don't know. I'm talking myself out of it. I'll wait for another year. We have to have this dialogue. At the end of this dialogue, the end of this teaching, this is the teaching. A 7-8-year-old will know that the sky is not blue. In fact, the blueness is just an appearance. This is interesting, this is nice, this is good to know. The blue color is not a vastu. A blue color will be a vastu if it has some shape, it has some weight, and it has a non-changing aspect to it. Like a table. In that case, ultimately even the table is not a vastu, but for the time being, it is a vastu. The blueness is not that kind of a vastu. It is something which is very interesting, really speaking. You cannot touch it. Swami Akhandananda says that when we were young, we used to think that we can distill the blue color and wash our clothes with it. I don't know if he's joking but he says yes. When we were very young, it's interesting. His education from his parents, from the very day one, he was born into a family where all of this was really discussed. That was very early on. And in fact, at some point in time, he was living in that household, and they were actually experts in Jyotish. In Jyotish and in Ayurveda and medicine. But he was more deeply interested in what is going on, what is all this. We had to leave the home and go and talk to so many other people. It took him a lifetime to really understand. And really what is remarkable about what I find about his books in Hindi is his such precise description of what it is all about in highly Sanskritized Hindi, and very well done in the terms of books. No errors. Every sentence is nice. It's as though he's talking to me. Very rare, very amazing. I didn't really discover this until just a few years back. But now I don't see any equal to it anywhere, at least in my life. So he points out that there is a second stage of viveka. So going back to keeping it to a very simply understandable thing, 3 stages to the viveka. First stage is there is no viveka. Blueness and the sky are all mixed into a single entity. The second stage is the teaching to distinguish between a color blue and a space which cannot ever be colored. Can never be colored. It is nitya. This is why sometimes Atma is also called Gagana Sadrisham. Gagana Sadrisham means it is like the space. Very beautiful thing, and we'll go into this later on. But for the time being, so the teaching results in having a nitya anitya viveka. This is stage 2. Right? So the blueness is anitya. Because right now in my room, I don't see blueness in the space. Very interesting. Where is it? Only if you go outside and it's not cloudy. There shall not be. So cloud can remove the blueness. Night removes the blueness. The blueness is very vulnerable. Everything has to be right for the blueness to even appear. It cannot even appear blue. Leave aside being there. Even the appearance is very anitya. Contrasted to that is the akasha. Akasha is, relatively speaking, totally nitya. Totally nitya. Almost. I'll explain to you why it is not. Whenever I say totally means from a vyavaharika satyam, the akasha is nitya. That you cannot have jagrat avastha without akasha. Akasha has to be there. It is right. It's sakshat. Nobody has to I don't have to reason that akasha is there. It is there. I am there because of akasha. I am in the akasha. So it is sakshat. It is visible to me. It's always there. This is the nityatvam of the akasha and the anityatvam of the blue color. So this is the second stage. The third stage is a clarification of the second stage. A clarification. There, the third stage won't be as useful as it would be when we apply this example to ourselves. So let's stay with the example of the blue akasha. The third stage is you only think of akasha. You ignore anything that sounds like an appearance. It just doesn't matter. Even forget about blueness, even pollution is a function of the air particles, not of the akasha. The nighttime of the akasha is also not affecting the akasha. It is only the color of the light, isn't it? So it's totally there. So the third stage, therefore, is I don't have to deal with blueness at all. It is completely untouched. Akasha is untouched by the blueness. This is called Asanga Shastra. This is the meaning of the Bhagavad Gita. Asanga Shastrena Dridhena Chitva. Meaning, there is no need to remove the blueness because it never touches you. If you are the Akasha, supposing you are the Akasha. If the Akasha had some consciousness and it says, I'm confused that I'm blue. And it says, no, you're not blue. Blueness is an appearance on you. And first you don't understand it. You are spiritually an infant. Then you become teachable. Then you become knowledgeable. That I am untouched by anything. Pollution? No. I'm touched by it. That's somebody else's problem. The Akasha can never be touched, can never be polluted. It can never turn blue. This is called Asanga Shastra. This is the example. So in summary, the only way to deal with this impossible world that we live in, which seems to affect me, I am at the mercy of it. I am dependent on it. It's an uneasy truce between me and the world. This kind of a thing can be removed by Nitya Anitya Viveka, Drik Drishya Viveka. And the Drik Drishya Viveka is, now let us apply this example of the blue sky to our own life. This Drik, so in the case of the blueness of the sky, we can talk in terms of Nitya and Anitya Viveka. But now in terms of the application of the example to our life, in Sanskrit the example is called Drishtanta. And the application of the example is called Dashtanta. So the Dashtanta in our life, The Viveka from becoming Nitya and Anitya, you can keep it to Nitya and Anitya, becomes Drik Drishya Viveka. But the principles of Viveka remain the same. The three stages of the Viveka remain the same. So let us now look into that. So, the first stage is Aviveka. This is we all start out being spiritually means truth from a standpoint of understanding, not religion. What is spirituality really means. We'll say he's a very spiritual person. Sometimes even the word spiritual is also not understood properly. Sometimes people will say we see a goodness of a person as spirituality. He's a very spiritual person. It's not the true meaning of spirituality. You know what the true meaning of spirituality is? Understanding of truth about what is going on in the whole world. That is the spirituality. So from that perspective, we are all infants. We don't know what spirituality is. This is the stage one. How? Because I am mixing up Drik and Drishya. And the result is samsara. Stage one. Stage two. Through the teaching of Advaita Vedanta, you are taught you are not just one thing, you are a mixture of two things. Please do this discrimination. Drishya is anitya and Drik is nitya, and those two cannot be mixed together at all. They cannot. It's a mistake to see them being mixed together. See this clearly. And I have a hard time understanding it. What do you mean by mixing up and all kinds of things? And so this is what whole Shravanam and Mananam and all this is. It says that, don't you see that you are like the space that cannot be mixed with the blueness. Similarly, you are the Drik, and Drishya is, so this is what is called Adhyaropa Apavada. We have seen this before. This is the basic method of Vedanta, is Adhyaropa Apavada Bhyam Nishprapancham Prapadyate. Famous statement. That your understanding that the Drishya is you is an Adhyaropa. It is a kind of like a false covering, just like when you say the sky is blue. It is not true. These are even the words are not true. Forget about the meaning of the word, but even the word is not true. The word meaning that the blue sky, even that is not true. Sky is not blue. Sky is sky and blue is blue. So even to say that I am a samsari, even the words do not give justice to it. But more than the word, is the meaning. Is what is called Shabda and Shabdartha. Yes, Swami Akhandananda points out that, this is what happens. You read books and you read many, many books. And sometimes you feel, I've done a lot. I've done this Upanishad, and I've done this Prakarana Grantha. I've done Rishdishya Viveka. I've studied the Bhagavad Gita. I often am told by people that I have revised Bhagavad Gita many, many times. Some people know it by heart. Some chapters by heart. The only chapter that I know by heart is the 15th chapter, because we used to repeat it in, every time we'd have a meal. But I don't remember the other ones. Chapter 2, I remember quite a bit of it, but I don't remember the other ones. But people study a lot. So Swami Akhandananda says that studying a lot without understanding the meaning of the words, it is very much, unfortunately, I'm using a harsh word as Swamiji says, it is like a donkey that has a huge amount, it is able to carry a huge amount of load without understanding what the load means. Swamiji says that supposing you have a sack of diamonds, literally millions of dollars worth, and you put it on the back of a donkey, and the donkey simply carries the burden of the bag, not understanding what's in the bag. Similarly, studying books, words, being able to pronounce and to be able to chant without understanding the meaning of the words is very much like akin to a donkey. So even the word to say I'm a samsari is not correct. But more than that is to understand, what do you mean by the fact that I am not a samsari? This is the Asanga Shastra. You have to see clearly that I am like the sky that cannot possibly be polluted. There is no blueness possible. So it's interesting, in the Pancha Mahabhutas, so you start with Akasha, then you have Vayu, then you have Agni, then you have Apaha, and you finally have Prithvi. And all the most subtlest them is Akasha. And then the other ones are less and less subtle, more and more grossified. So the blueness does not belong to the Akasha. It's a combination of the others. There is a little bit of Prithvi, little bit of Prakasha, and maybe even some Apaha, some Jalam. It's possible, I don't know. but it's certainly not in the Akasha. So in that sense, the Akasha is Nitya, and the other ones are all Anitya. Anyway, going back to our life, our example, so 3 stages to it. Stage 1 is where I cannot distinguish. Stage 2 is the teaching to say, my gosh, please see that there are 2 factors, Drik and Drishya. Please see that the Drik is not affected by the Drishya. Even in the transactional world, even in the transaction, forget about the Paramarthika Satyam, but if you look at the Vyavaharika Satyam, even at that level, which is a relative truth, not absolute truth, you can see that Drik and Drishya are totally different. The observer of something is different from the observed, fundamentally different. But in the case of Vyavaharika Satyam, there is a possibility that the seer can be affected by the seen. So supposing you see horrific something, some killing or something like this. So it's very possible that the memory of the killing affects you, affects your mind, affects your attitude towards things maybe. So there in a Vyavaharika Satyam, you can see that the seer can be theoretically affected by the seen. The seer can be affected by the seen, possibly. In the case of Paramarthika Satyam, this is not even true. You know why? As we will see this in more detail, even the mind, which is the possible link between the seer and the seen in Vyavaharika Sat. So think about this carefully. In Vyavaharika Sat, there is a scene in front of you. Interesting, the word seen. And what is seen are the like SCENE and SEEN. So it's possible that in transactional reality, what is seen can be affected the seer, because the seer in the Vyavaharika Satyam consists of the mind and the body. So there is a distinction between the seer and the seen in terms of this body and my body. So there's a distinction. So there could be a possibility of a crosstalk between them. But this is not the case in Paramarthika Satyam. You know why? From the standpoint of Paramarthika Satyam, even this body and mind is also seen. See the thing? In Vyavaharika Satyam, this body and this mind is a seer. And What I am seeing is the seen. So that is the distinction between seer and seen. In Paramarthika Satyam, even this body and mind is also the drishyam, not a drik. This is a very important thing that we are going to really dwell on. So this is a very interesting thing to see. I can summarize this to a certain extent. And now we can go back to the 3 stages. Remember the 3 stages I talked about? First stage is aviveka, indistinguishing between blueness and the sky. The second stage is the teaching that the two of them are separate. The third stage in that example is not that different from the stage 2. Because once you understand that this is the sky and this is the blueness, then the third stage of the implication of that is not that visible. They are kind of mixed up together. But in the case of Paramarthika Satyam, in the case of our life, the third stage is very different, very palpable, very unique. How? What do you mean by that? This is what we have to see. And in generally speaking, I would say that most of our teaching, if not all of it, so far, my teaching it to you and our discussion, maybe you've had discussion with other people that you're more advanced than I thought you were. Not I thought, but our discussion is at stage 2. The stage 3 discussion we haven't had yet, which will come, hopefully, God willing. So here's the thing about the 3 stages of this viveka. First one is we cannot distinguish between drik and drishya. The second is the teaching, where the drik is meticulously, completely, in a very detailed fashion, distinguished between drik and drishya. This is still at the level of Dvaita, not Advaita. Right? Dvaita means duality. It really means plurality. Plurality in the sense that everything in the world is a separate factor that seems to affect me. So there's multiplicity of things. But basically it can be divided into the duality between drik and drishya. Even though the drishya has multiplicity, but from the standpoint of wrapping it down into something very palpable, there is drik and drishya difference. So, but this is still Advaita. Still Dvaita, still duality. So really all of our teaching, all of our discussions so far and all of the things that we've been doing has been stage 2. There is a stage 3. What is the stage 3? Stage 3 is Advaita. Advaita means there is only Drik. There is really no Drishya apart from the Drik. This is the Advaita. And until that time, when that is clear to me, my samsara does not go. My sense of satisfaction, my attainment of joy remains suspended even in stage 2. In the stage 3, so this is where we can now start to distinguish between the example and the exemplified. See, this is what I was saying, that in the example, the stage 3 is not that distinctly separate from stage 2. But once you know that it is, the sky is unpolluted, cannot be changed by the color, you know it. And you know what? It doesn't change your life. It is simply an illustration. In the exemplified, in your and my case, stage 2 is just a step 2. It is not the final result. How? Because stage 2 is still Dvaita. It's a very funny thing that really stage 1 in that sense is non-duality, because everything is all mixed up. Everything is all one. I'm a samsari. I cannot distinguish myself from a limited being. This world is also limited. I'm also limited. It's all one wool of wax. Or whatever that saying is. So this is kind of like an Advaita. But then we go from stage 1 to a duality of Drik and Drishya being different. And it's an essential step. You cannot go to stage 3 until you go to step 2, stage 2, Drik and Drishya. But this is still a step on the ladder. You haven't reached the very top of the roof where you want to see what's going on. The stage 3 is where the whole thing changes dramatically. Stage 2, you can have some partial satisfaction. And the partial satisfaction comes from a couple of different sources. The fact that you see that you are different, you are not affected by it, you should be seeing you are different from it, that helps me. Also the factor that there is more coming, that I'm on the right path, this teaching is beginning to help me, that also gives you some sense of satisfaction. It's kind of like, going to a doctor. As you know, our experience, at least my experience is that just going to a doctor itself relieves you of some worry and pain. And even if the doctor says, oh, I understand exactly what you have, and now we'll take care of it. So that itself removes a lot of worry and concern, even though you haven't really been cured yet. So even stage 2 is very helpful. But stage 3 is when you are cured. When you say that drishya and drik are not separate, why? Because the drik is satyam and the drishya is mithya. Meaning, it is not the same level as what you are. It's kind of like, in some ways, I don't know, just example popped into my head that supposing you have a very naughty youngster that puts in these black rubber scorpions in your bed. I hope that never happens. I hope you don't have kids like that, but it can happen. That you open up the cover and in there is a real looking black shiny scorpion. What will be your reaction be? You're going to be horrified. You're going to fall back, especially those of us that have dealt with scorpions, as we have in India, with snakes and scorpions and so on. You'd be horrified. What? Oh my gosh, how did that happen? So this is what is called duality, because you are a human being, very concerned about your health and well-being. You don't want to be bitten by scorpions, let alone having a house in which the bed has a scorpion. Imagine your horror, right? But this is duality, because just look at it this way. The scorpion and you have the same degree of reality. The scorpion can really injure you. The scorpion bites you. They say, I don't think I've ever been bitten by a scorpion, but they say the bite of the scorpion is one of the most painful experiences. So if you know what a scorpion is, then the thought of the scorpion being different from you, but having the same degree of reality, you are the victim, the scorpion can bite you, is horrifying. But suppose in this scene, I hope this doesn't happen to you, you have an 11-year-old boy, your own son, who is standing on the side of the room, peeking into it, giggling. You know what will happen? Your sorrow goes away instantly. You know why? The same scorpion that you see, that you were horrified by, is now a different level of reality than what you are. It is a lower level of reality, meaning it has the appearance of a real scorpion, but it is not. right? When that happens, that means you are the Satyam, relatively speaking, and the scorpion is now Mithya. When that understand, the moment that you see that, you get it, there is laughter. There is some, you can run after the kids and say, don't you ever do that to me again. Yeah, all of that can happen. But there is a smile on your face. You inwardly you say, oh my God, when did this guy become so naughty? You're relieved. In fact, you now start to handle it and say, wow, where did he get this from? And there is a whole industry that makes all these snakes and scorpions look very real. That's how they make money. So you admire it and you say, wow, this is so beautiful. It's it really made me so scared. Wow. This is the stage 3 of the Drik Drishya Viveka. So the real freedom, moksha, comes not in Drik Drishya Viveka, but in the stage 3, where the Drishya is also nothing but Drik alone. So there we will see there's some other things about it, but that is the teaching of Advaita, not Dvaita. So now going back to what Bhagavan Sri Krishna was saying, Ashwatthaменam suvirudha moolam. This cannot be cut except by asanka shastrena dridhena kritva. You have to fundamentally see the viveka. Asanga shastra is the third stage of the Drik Drishya Viveka. So we will pause at this point and again connect it to the 7th verse of Nantah Pragyam, Nabahish Pragyam next time. Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. My gosh, really, Shanti Kumar? Oh, that must be amazing. Wow. To be bitten by scorpion. You're the first one that I really said that. Hmm. I don't know. That example just popped in my head. But I think it's a very relevant example, I think, in seeing this. That's exactly what our situation is. Yeah, just on that topic, recently I've just, because I take up one book that I study quite regularly. And there was this book by Swami Akhandananda ji on Drikdrishya Viveka. Drikdrishya Viveka I have studied so many times and taught so many times. One of my favorite books, texts. In fact, the very first detailed class was given by Swami Dayanand ji on Drikdrishya Viveka. And so I think I almost remember it by heart, most of the verses. But I did not understand the full implications of it until I started studying Swami Akhandananda, how he relates to the different things. So I'm thinking that I'm going to take that up, and perhaps my thoughts at the moment are that I will just do small podcasts as I've been discussing it with some of the students, with Chandra and Raj and Kuldeep and Lakshmi, that I will do small 20-minute podcasts. So I might just base it on Drikdrishya Viveka. It's a very beautifully laid out thing. So I might just do that. I'm thinking about it. Anyway, good to see you all. Hopefully see you next week. Hari Om.